Have you ever had one night change everything in your life? What started as a regular work evening with my boss quickly spiraled into something I could never have imagined. Stay with me, because this story will shock you. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a story like this. Ready? Let's get into it. The day had settled into a slow, languid evening, and the city outside the office windows was already swallowing the last light of dusk. I glanced at the clock resting silently on the corner of my desk. Just past 7. Most of the office had emptied hours ago, but I stayed behind, fingers lingering on the keyboard as I wrapped up the final details of a project that was due first thing tomorrow. My boss, Mr. Reynolds, had been equally absorbed in his work. He was a man of quiet demeanor, reserved, meticulous, with an air that kept most at arm's length. Yet tonight, something was different. The usual stiffness in his posture had softened, his tired eyes catching mine briefly across the room. "You're still here," he remarked, voice low and oddly casual. I nodded, forcing a smile. Trying to finish up, he walked over, pulling a chair close to mine. "Let me help," he said. It was an offer I hadn't expected, and as the minutes passed, the distance between us seemed to shrink. Not just the physical space, but something intangible. Something that suggested this would not be an ordinary night. The soft hum of the city beyond the windows was a distant murmur compared to the quiet tension that settled in the room. We talked, at first about work, then drifted to more personal subjects. Stories from past jobs, family memories, dreams long buried beneath years of routine. When he suggested grabbing a late coffee from the small cafe downstairs, I hesitated, caught off guard by the invitation. But the night was young, and the pull of the unexpected was too strong to resist. What happened next? Well, that's the story I want to share with you. It's a night that changed everything, one turn after another, moments of surprise, revelation, and yes, a few things you might never see coming. So, if you're ready, stay with me as I take you through that unforgettable evening. The stairwell was dimly lit, the faint echo of our footsteps bouncing off the concrete walls as we descended to the street below. Outside, the night air was crisp and cool, a gentle breeze weaving through the quiet city streets. The cafe's warm glow spilled onto the pavement, a beacon inviting us in from the chill. Inside, the aroma of fresh coffee and baked pastries wrapped around us like a comforting embrace. The few patrons scattered around were engrossed in hushed conversations or their own solitude. We found a small corner table by the window, the flickering candlelight casting soft shadows across Mr. Reynolds's face, revealing a side of him I'd never noticed, vulnerability beneath the composed exterior. Our conversation meandered effortlessly. He spoke of regrets and hopes, of chances he never took and dreams he still clung to. It was as if the night had unlocked a door, and he was inviting me into a world beyond the professional facade. I shared my own stories, the struggles of balancing ambition with the weight of everyday life. For a moment, we were just two people, stripped of titles, of expectations, simply connected by the fragile honesty of the night. As the hours slipped by, the cafe's patrons thinned until only we remained. Outside, the street lamps flickered in the early morning haze, and the city's pulse slowed to a whisper. That's when things began to shift, subtly at first, then unmistakably. The space between us grew charged with something electric and unspoken. A glance held a little longer. A smile that hinted at something more. The night was no longer just about coffee or stories. It had become something deeper, something I hadn't dared to anticipate but couldn't now ignore. The quiet hum of the cafe faded into the background as my mind focused solely on him. Mr. Reynolds's eyes, usually so guarded, held a softness that both intrigued and unsettled me. It was a look I hadn't seen before, one that hinted at secrets, at feelings buried beneath years of restraint. "I never expected tonight to feel like this," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes, the most ordinary nights surprise us the most." I nodded, unsure how to respond. There was a vulnerability in his words that made the air between us thick with possibility. Outside, the first pale hints of dawn began to brush the sky, casting a faint glow through the cafe windows. The world was waking up, but in this little corner, time seemed to stand still. He reached across the table, his hand brushing mine lightly. The touch was fleeting but electric, sending a warmth rushing through me. For a moment, everything else, the office, the deadlines, the roles we played, melted away. "What happens now?" I asked, voice soft, barely steady. He smiled, a slow, genuine curve of lips that promised more stories yet to be told. "That," he said, "is the part no one can predict." And so began a night neither of us would ever forget, a night where boundaries blurred and truths were laid bare under the gentle light of early morning. We left the cafe hand in hand, stepping out into the cool morning air that still carried the quiet hush of a city not yet awake. The streets were empty, save for the distant hum of a few early risers beginning their day. The unexpected freedom of the moment made everything feel surreal, like a dream painted in soft light and whispered promises. We walked without purpose, letting the rhythm of our footsteps guide us through the sleeping city. There was no need for words, the silence between us was comfortable, filled with unspoken understanding. At one point, he paused beneath a street lamp, its golden glow framing his face. He looked at me, really looked, and for the first time, I saw beyond the professional mask. The man standing there was someone shaped by years of hope and regret, strength and vulnerability intertwined. "I've spent so long hiding," he admitted, voice low and earnest. "Tonight, I wanted to be real. Just for a little while." I felt a lump rise in my throat, touched by his honesty. The weight of the moment pressed gently, yet powerfully. As the sky lightened, casting pastel hues over the cityscape, I realized this night was more than a chance encounter. It was a turning point, a story we were writing together, one word, one glance, one heartbeat at a time. The hours ahead were uncertain, but in that fleeting dawn, anything felt possible. As the pale morning light stretched across the horizon, we found ourselves wandering toward a quiet park tucked between the buildings. The grass still held the dew of night, shimmering like tiny jewels under the soft glow of awakening day. We settled onto a bench beneath a sprawling oak tree, its ancient branches whispering secrets with the gentle breeze. The world seemed distant here, as if time had slowed just for us. Mr. Reynolds spoke less now, his gaze distant yet sincere. I could sense the weight of his thoughts, the delicate balance between the man he was expected to be and the man he longed to become. "I've spent so many years playing a role," he murmured, "that sometimes, I forget who I really am underneath." His confession stirred something deep inside me. We were two souls, navigating the complex dance of masks and truths, searching for moments like this, honest, raw, and unguarded. I reached out, resting my hand lightly over his. The contact was simple but spoke volumes, bridging the gap between uncertainty and connection. For a while, we sat in silence, letting the gentle sounds of the morning fill the space, birdsong, distant footsteps, the rustle of leaves. It was peaceful, a stark contrast to the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside. Then, as if summoned by some unspoken agreement, he turned to me with a small, hopeful smile. "Maybe nights like this are rare," he said softly, "but they remind us what it means to be truly alive." In that moment, beneath the awakening sky and ancient oak, I knew this night would linger in my memory forever, a beautiful, unforgettable turn in a story neither of us saw coming. The morning grew brighter, but neither of us seemed eager to part ways. The world outside the park was stirring to life, cars humming, distant voices rising, but here, under the shelter of the old oak, time held its breath. We talked then, truly talked, sharing fragments of ourselves usually kept hidden. Stories of youthful dreams deferred, fears quietly harbored, and hopes cautiously nurtured. It was as though the night had dissolved the walls we both had built, leaving only two people connected by honest words and shared moments. At one point, he laughed softly, a sound so rare and genuine it caught me off guard. I never imagined I'd find this kind of conversation after hours at the office, he said, eyes twinkling. It's a strange, wonderful feeling. I smiled, feeling the weight of the night's magic settle warmly in my chest. The ordinary had turned extraordinary, the mundane transformed by an unexpected companionship. But even as the morning light promised a new day, I sensed the night's spell was fragile. There were realities waiting, jobs, responsibilities, the unspoken rules that defined us. Still, as we rose to leave the park, there was an unspoken understanding between us. This night, with all its surprises and confessions, had changed something fundamental. It was the beginning of a story neither of us could have predicted, but one we were now eager to explore. The night's magic lingered between us as we walked slowly back toward the office building, now quiet and still in the early light. The city around us was waking, but inside, a bubble of calm and connection held firm, as if time had folded in on itself. Mr. Reynolds glanced over, a hint of hesitation in his eyes that spoke louder than words. I never thought I'd admit this to anyone, he said softly, but there's something about tonight, something I needed. His confession settled heavily in the cool morning air. I felt the same, an unexpected shift that blurred lines, reshaped feelings, and stirred questions I hadn't dared ask. As we reached the building's entrance, the moment paused, caught between what had been and what might come. He looked at me, searching, perhaps hoping for a sign that I felt it too. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, he whispered, but tonight was real. Unforgettable. I nodded, heart pounding, understanding the fragile truth in his words. The night had taken us somewhere new, somewhere neither of us expected, but both wanted to explore. And with that, the dawn cracked open, bathing us in golden light as the city came alive again. While inside, a story had just begun. The door closed softly behind us, the faint click echoing in the quiet lobby. As I turned away, a swirl of emotions swept through me, excitement, uncertainty, and something deeper, a quiet hope that this night was not just a fleeting moment but the beginning of something meaningful. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows that stretched across the city streets. The world was awakening, but inside me, a calm resolve took root. No matter what the future held, this night had changed me. It had opened a door to new possibilities, to a story waiting to unfold. And so, with the first light warming my skin, I stepped forward, ready for whatever came next. The days that followed were a delicate dance between the familiar and the unknown. Back at the office, the routine hummed along as always, emails, meetings, deadlines. But beneath the surface, everything felt subtly altered. The air seemed charged with unspoken possibilities, and every glance exchanged with Mr. Reynolds held a quiet intensity, a secret shared in silence. We navigated the delicate boundary between professionalism and the new, fragile connection forged that night. Conversations grew warmer, smiles lingered longer, and moments that once would have been ordinary now shimmered with hidden meaning. Yet, with this newfound closeness came an undercurrent of tension. The question of what it all meant, for us, for our work, for the life we had carefully constructed, hovered like a shadow. Impossible to ignore. Outside the office walls, the city carried on indifferent to our unfolding story. But inside, a transformation was underway. One that would test the strength of our bond, challenge our courage, and reveal truths neither of us was quite prepared for. Each morning, arriving at the office felt like stepping into a new world, the same setting, yet charged with a fresh undercurrent of anticipation. Mr. Reynolds and I shared subtle exchanges, a lingering look across the conference room, a brief touch on the arm when passing by, moments heavy with things left unsaid. Our conversations became a gentle unraveling of guarded walls. Over cups of coffee in the break room, we found ourselves sharing little more than work, stories of childhood, favorite books, dreams tucked away like fragile treasures. The professionalism that once defined our interactions softened, revealing glimpses of the people beneath. But with every smile and quiet confession, the stakes grew higher. We both understood that crossing this line could complicate everything: careers, reputations, the delicate balance of power between boss and employee. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in hues of amber and rose, we found ourselves alone in the conference room. The atmosphere was thick with a tension neither dared name aloud. I could feel his gaze tracing the curve of my profile, a silent question hanging in the air. "Is this foolish?" he finally asked, voice rough with uncertainty. I hesitated, heart pounding. "Maybe," I whispered, "but some things are worth the risk." In that fragile moment, everything shifted, a quiet understanding passing between us. Fragile but undeniable. The days blurred into one another, each carrying the weight of what had begun yet what dared not be fully named. Our stolen moments, the shared glances across crowded rooms, the brief brush of hands reaching for a document, were charged with an electric tension, both thrilling and daunting. At times, I found myself caught in a swirl of conflicting emotions, the excitement of discovery, the fear of consequences, and the quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, this fragile connection could become something real. One evening, as the office emptied and the city outside dimmed into twilight, Mr. Reynolds called me into his office. The usual sharp edges of his professional tone softened into something more personal. "I can't pretend this isn't affecting me," he confessed, running a hand through his hair. "But I'm also afraid of what it might mean if we cross the line." I met his gaze, steady and sure. "Sometimes, the best things in life come from taking a risk," I said gently. "Maybe it's time we stop pretending and see where this goes." The silence that followed was filled not with answers, but with a promise, a quiet agreement that whatever came next, we would face it together. The tension between us, once a quiet undercurrent, began to ripple more visibly through our days. Every meeting, every exchanged email, carried a new weight, a subtext only we understood. The office, once a place of strict boundaries, transformed into a delicate stage where unspoken feelings played out in subtle gestures and fleeting moments. One afternoon, the sky heavy with gray clouds, we found ourselves working late again. The hum of the city had softened into a gentle murmur, and the office lights cast a warm glow around us. He approached my desk, a tentative smile tugging at his lips. "I've been thinking," he began, voice low and thoughtful. "About us, about the future. I don't want this to be something we hide." I looked up, meeting his eyes, seeing a mixture of hope and apprehension reflected there. "Neither do I replied softly. "But it's not just about us. There are others, expectations. We have to be careful." He nodded, understanding the unspoken risks. Yet, beneath the caution, there was a spark, a desire to navigate this new path together, no matter how uncertain it seemed. And so, with hearts open yet guarded, we stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever the unfolding story would bring. The days that followed brought a subtle but undeniable shift. The walls between us seemed to thin. Not with reckless abandon, but with careful, deliberate steps. Each moment weighed with both excitement and caution. We found ourselves sharing more than just work now. Quiet lunches that stretched longer than necessary, conversations that lingered well past closing time, and a softness in his smile that spoke volumes. It was as if the night we had shared was no longer a secret but a bridge, connecting two worlds previously kept apart. Yet, beneath this fragile closeness, the shadows of doubt and fear remained. What if the delicate balance we'd found was shattered? What if the risks we were taking came with consequences neither of us could foresee? One evening, as rain tapped softly against the window panes, we sat side by side in his office, the city lights casting a muted glow. He reached out, fingers brushing against mine, a silent question hanging in the air. "I don't want to lose this," he said quietly. "Neither do I," I replied, heart pounding. In that shared silence, a promise was made, not just of what was, but of what could be, if we dared to believe. The quiet rain outside seemed to echo the uncertainty inside the room, soft but persistent. We sat there, hands nearly touching, both hesitant yet craving the connection that had blossomed between us. The office, once a place of strict professionalism, had become a refuge, a secret world where vulnerability was allowed to surface. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, the bond deepened, threading through stolen smiles, whispered conversations, and subtle acts of kindness. Yet, the question lingered like a shadow: how far could we go before the walls of reality came crashing down? One late afternoon, as the sun dipped low and cast a golden hue across the skyline, Mr. Reynolds pulled me aside. His usual calm demeanor was replaced with something raw, a mix of longing and resolve. "We can't keep this hidden forever," he said, eyes searching mine. "But maybe, just maybe, we don't have to." The words hung between us, fragile but filled with promise. It was a turning point, the moment where fear and hope collided, and the path forward, though uncertain, shimmered with possibility. The golden light softened around us as the weight of his words settled gently in the space between. For a moment, the noise of the bustling city outside seemed to fade, leaving only the quiet promise of what might come. "We don't have to hide," I echoed, my voice steady though my heart raced. "But we have to be ready, for whatever comes with it." He nodded slowly, the hint of a smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Ready or not, some things are worth the risk." From that day on, the air between us shifted once more. The secrecy began to ease, replaced by a cautious openness. We moved forward together, aware of the challenges ahead but buoyed by the strength of our connection. Each shared glance, each quiet touch, became a testament to the courage it takes to embrace the unexpected. The story we were writing was no longer just about a night, it was about the unfolding journey of two people daring to rewrite their own chapters. The days that followed were a mixture of delicate revelations and quiet courage. We began to weave our new reality into the fabric of everyday life. Small moments of honesty, gentle confessions shared in whispered conversations, and a growing sense of partnership that transcended titles and expectations. At work, the atmosphere shifted subtly. Colleagues noticed the change, though no words were spoken. The tension of secrecy gave way to a more relaxed, authentic connection. Yet beneath it all, the shadow of uncertainty remained. How would the world outside respond? Were we prepared for the challenges that lay ahead? One afternoon, as the sun filtered softly through the blinds, Mr. Reynolds invited me to join him for a walk in the nearby park. The familiar surroundings felt different now, colored by the unspoken bond we shared. "We're stepping into unknown territory," he said, his voice thoughtful. "But I believe it's worth it." I smiled, feeling the truth of his words settle within me. Together, we can face whatever comes. And with that, we walked side by side, ready to face the next chapter of our story, uncertain, fragile, but filled with hope. As the days turned into weeks, the quiet courage we shared became the foundation of something deeper. The thrill of discovery was tinged with moments of doubt, but each challenge only strengthened the fragile trust between us. We found solace in stolen conversations and gentle reassurances, navigating a world that wasn't always ready to understand. Yet, every glance and every smile reaffirmed the choice we had made, to step boldly into the unknown together. One evening, as the city lights flickered to life and cast long shadows across the streets, we sat beneath the soft glow of a street lamp. The air was thick with unspoken questions and the gentle promise of new beginnings. "I don't know what the future holds," he said softly, "but I know I want to face it with you." I reached out, intertwining my fingers with his, feeling the steady warmth of his hand. "Whatever comes, we'll face it together." And in that moment, beneath the quiet night sky, the story we had begun took a new breath, a testament to courage, hope, and the power of unexpected turns. The soft night wrapped around us like a quiet secret as we sat beneath the street lamp, hands entwined, hearts quietly beating in sync. In the stillness, the weight of all that had passed and all that was yet to come settled between us, tender but unyielding. Days of whispered hopes and cautious steps had led us here, to a moment both fragile and fierce. The city around us thrummed with life, but here, in this pocket of calm, time seemed to pause, allowing us to simply be. He squeezed my hand gently, eyes reflecting the depth of his feelings. "This isn't just a chapter anymore," he said, voice low but certain. "It's the whole story." I smiled, a warmth spreading through me that no words could capture. "Then let's write it together. Every page, every twist, every unexpected turn." And so, under the quiet watch of the night sky, two lives once separate now intertwined. Ready to face whatever the future held, unforgettable, unshakable, and utterly ours. The days that followed brought challenges neither of us could have fully anticipated. The delicate balance we'd found began to strain under the weight of expectations, whispered rumors, and the reality of navigating a relationship where power and professionalism intertwined. One afternoon, as rain pattered softly against the office windows, tension crackled in the air. We stood in the quiet of the conference room, the walls closing in with unspoken worries. "I don't want to lose what we have," he confessed, voice raw with vulnerability. "But I'm scared of what others will think." I reached out, resting my hand over his. "We'll face it together," I assured him. "No matter the obstacles." That promise was a beacon in the storm, guiding us through uncertainty and doubt. It was a test of trust, resilience, and the courage to embrace the unpredictable. As the rain softened outside, we held on to each other, ready to face whatever twists awaited in our unfolding story. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil brewing within us. Every whispered conversation in the hallways, every sideways glance felt like a test of our resolve. Yet, in the midst of uncertainty, our connection only grew stronger, rooted in trust and an unspoken promise to protect what we had. Late one evening, as the office emptied and the world outside slipped into silence, we found refuge in the quiet sanctuary of his office once again. The weight of the day's doubts lifted, replaced by a calm certainty. He looked at me, eyes searching, and said, "No matter what comes, I want you to know, this is real for me." I smiled, heart full. "It's real for me too." In that moment, beneath the soft glow of the desk lamp, the world outside faded away. It was just us, two souls daring to believe in something extraordinary amidst the ordinary. The days that followed brought a fragile peace, a quiet understanding that while the path ahead was uncertain, we would walk it side by side, We shared stolen moments between meetings, exchanged knowing smiles across crowded rooms, and found comfort in the simple act of being near one another. Yet, beneath the calm surface, the reality of our situation simmered. The office was a place of unspoken rules and delicate boundaries, and every choice carried weight. Would our connection survive the scrutiny and challenges awaiting us? One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the blinds casting long shadows across the floor, Mr. Reynolds took my hand in his and said, "Whatever happens, we face it together." And in that moment, the world felt a little less daunting. With courage in our hearts and hope lighting the way, we prepared to embrace whatever twists awaited us next. The tension that had been quietly building finally came to a head one crisp autumn afternoon. The office buzzed with its usual energy, but beneath the surface, whispers and sideways glances had begun to stir. The fragile balance we had maintained was under threat, and the weight of scrutiny pressed down on us like an unseen force. Mr. Reynolds and I exchanged a glance heavy with unspoken worries as we navigated the corridors filled with colleagues who seemed to sense the shift. The risk of exposure loomed large, and the consequences felt very real. That evening, we met in the quiet sanctuary of a nearby cafe, seeking refuge from the storm. Over steaming cups of coffee, we spoke honestly, about fears, hopes, and the uncertain road ahead. "We can't control what others think," he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil. "But we can choose how we move forward." I nodded, feeling the strength in his words. Together, the decision wasn't easy, but it was ours, a testament to the courage required to embrace love amid uncertainty. The cafe's warm light wrapped around us like a shield, offering a brief respite from the harsh glare of the outside world. In that quiet corner, we found strength in each other's presence, a sanctuary where fears could be voiced and hopes dared to be spoken aloud. The days ahead promised challenges, but also moments of profound connection. We knew the path would not be easy, yet the choice to face it together transformed our story from one of uncertainty to one of resilience. As the city buzzed beyond the windows, our hands found each other's once more, a silent vow spoken in a simple touch. Whatever storms awaited, we would face them side by side, bound not just by circumstance, but by a bond forged in courage, honesty, and unexpected love. The seasons shifted quietly, painting the city with hues of change, and so did we. Each challenge we faced only deepened the roots of our connection, grounding us in a shared strength neither had anticipated. The whispers and wary glances from colleagues grew fainter in the face of the sincerity we carried between us. There were moments of joy, simple breakfasts shared in the soft morning light, laughter echoing in stolen afternoons, and the comfort of knowing we were no longer alone in our journey. Yet, there were also moments of doubt and vulnerability, times when the weight of the world threatened to pull us apart. But through it all, we held fast. Our story became one not just of a night that changed everything, but of the quiet courage to embrace the unexpected, to rewrite our own narrative with honesty and hope. And as the sun set on that chapter of our lives, I knew with certainty that some turns, no matter how unforeseen, were meant to be unforgettable, unplanned, had blossomed into something far greater than I could have imagined. It wasn't just about a moment or a feeling, it was about growth, trust, and the courage to embrace uncertainty. The risks we took, the fears we faced, and the love we nurtured had woven a tapestry rich with meaning and resilience. Looking back, I realized that life's most unforgettable turns aren't always dramatic or loud. Sometimes, they're quiet whispers in the night, gentle touches in the dark, and the steady presence of someone who chooses to stay. And so, as the city lights flickered on and the world moved forward, I carried with me a simple truth, that the most extraordinary stories are the ones we live when we dare to open our hearts. That night with my boss was more than just an unexpected evening. It was a turning point that taught me about courage, trust, and embracing the unknown. Life often surprises us when we least expect it, reminding us that the most unforgettable moments come from taking risks and opening our hearts. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss future videos. Share your thoughts or similar experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep embracing life's unexpected turns.